Let's build some gravity-defying strength. Now, we're gonna go over a number of mistakes that you might be making that are holding you back from gaining the strength and skill that you would otherwise be able to. So we're gonna help you resolve that today. And I've gone through correcting these errors in everyone from people that are starting from scratch all the way to people who are trying to recover after multiple injuries and setbacks, and even athletes that are doing all kinds of things already and they want to get to the next level. And so I'm going to help you to fix a number of mistakes and build gravity-defying strength in the process. So we're going to start with something, a little test to see how your upper body strength and core are firing together. And so the first thing we'll do is we'll just bring the knees and the feet up off of the ground using core compression strength in the upper body. So this is a little challenge here. What we want to do is put the fingers wide first of all, and then have the U shape of our hand towards the front. Just, these are little details that coincide with hand balancing and building upper body strength, and really it's foundational strength. But hovering like this above the ground, do that test and see how you fare with that. Now, oftentimes things are going to be exposed. I call them weak links. It could be the wrists. We hear that all the time. Elbows, shoulders, or the infamous T-Rex arms, that the arms are too short and they can't lift their body up off of the ground, which is a myth. Really, it's exposing the weakness of the core and the lack of compression strength. And so that's the first one. So how do we do that? How do we get to the point where we can have the strength to be able to hold our body up off of the ground? And I say that this is the real starting point for strength. It shouldn't be any other methodologies or things out there. You should be able to have control over your own body, and then you can start layering on other disciplines, other methodologies, and so on. But you should be able to hold yourself up off the ground. And so this is the first one to start with. I call this a crunch planche or a tuck planche, because your body is in that tuck position. So when we're talking about positions, we're talking about different shapes that the body goes into that really deals with leverage. And sometimes people don't understand that. They think that they're just different variations of the same move, but really the positions and shapes of the body alter the amount of leverage that's required in terms of strength and those outputs of force. So for example, the closer in you can bring your legs to yourself, think about it like this: a seesaw. Imagine that that you're on a seesaw. You're on one side and your friend is on another side, and you want to launch them up into the air. What is going to allow you to be able to launch them up into the air? Them sitting on the long side and you sitting on the short side of the seesaw, or vice versa, them sitting on the short side and you sitting on the long side? Well, you sitting on the long side, of course. And so whenever we pull our legs in, for example, like in that crunch planche or tuck planche position, we are giving ourselves the most advantage possible with our upper body. And so the tighter in that you can bring your legs in, the easier this position becomes. In a tuck position is what we're starting with. Now, let's say that you can't do that yet. Well, there's a number of other things that we can go into. The easiest one probably is just sitting on the ground and lifting yourself off of the ground. If that is still a challenge, then probably using some other tools. And I don't get into gizmos and gadgets and gurus and all that stuff, but you want to keep it simple. So if you look around, we just have basically stuff to hang from, a lot of floor space to train, and then some simple tools. These are handstand canes, and you could use these, you could use chairs, you could even use blocks like this parallettes, blocks. So let's go back over here and use these blocks and start building up to some of that gravity-defying strength. So let's say we're here, okay, and we're using these as support, and we're lifting the body up off of the ground like this. We can just start by just lifting the knees and seeing how that feels with the core. Now I want to go into a really big mistake that a lot of people make, and I see this constantly, and it's a massive mistake that it might be holding you back from major gains in strength and skill, and maybe even some other areas of your life. Now, oftentimes I'll hear things like, I'll hear people say, oh man, just watching that makes their wrist hurt. Or they see a flip or a vault or a handstand or a low squat or full splits, and they say, just looking at that makes their knees hurt or their ankles hurt. And what I want to say as we're talking about this topic of, and this is an important one, because this will make a difference, whether you choose to believe this right now or not. It's not going to affect me one way or the other. We're talking about building gravity-defying strength. And there's one key piece that will hold you back from building gravity-defying strength. So you're trying to get your body to be light, to be able to move effortlessly, to be able to go into these positions and hold and press to other positions and ultimately have health and happiness. But there's one thing that's going to weigh you down more than anything else, and that's your thoughts and your words. I see it all over the time online. For me personally, I try to stay out of social media. I don't look at any of that stuff. I hear it in passing. I hear it in people's conversations whenever they approach things. And it's something that just needs to be changed. And here's the deal. Your body and your brain are going to constantly look for ways to stay in homeostasis. They're looking for ways to, your body and your brain, your nervous system, all of those intricate parts, everything that's connected and related together, you are looking for reasons to not rock the boat, reasons to stay in your comfort zone. Because that's where allegedly safety is. But we all know the story of the frog in the boiling water. And as the temperature rises, the frog doesn't realize, and then it eventually dies. Versus the frog that is exposed to hot water very quickly, jumps right out of it. And so your body is searching for reasons to not take action, searching for ways to keep things the same. And those thoughts and those words that you may have come up with on your own, or you might have been influenced and indoctrinated by other people that say those kind of things, that they're too old, this, that, and the other. They're talking about how tired they are, how they don't have any time. And those words and those thoughts, the more that you take part in those things, the more they start to anchor you down. And then anything that you do is going to feel like an impossible feat, not just, building body weight strength and skill. And so I wanted to really emphasize that today. That was something that I was thinking about, and I thought that it would be a nice juxtaposition with the body, or with the gravity-defying strength. And it really is the most important aspect of training. So I want to touch more on that, but I also want to go into more training with you. So that would be the first one, is here, and then lifting the knees off of the ground. Using something that can help elevate you, including your thoughts and your words. Then whenever the knees are up, we can start lifting the foot. Now, what a lot of people do is like with everything. They want to take the shortcut. Another big mistake. So this is what happens. And people don't even realize this, that they are seeking to stay in the same place. And so your body is going to do everything, and you won't even realize it, everything to cheat. Your body will do everything to cheat. So I bet you, whenever your knees are up like this and you're holding, you're like, oh man, this is so hard. How do I float? How do I float? And you're trying to kick up in the air. All that stuff, that supposed desire of actually building that strength isn't really a desire to build a strength at all, because your body is actually doing the opposite. It's exposing what you really want, to stay in the same place. And so this jumping off of the ground, this cheating that I see like 99% of the time with students that I train, they'll immediately go into jumping. I already know, like if I'm training a group of people, I already know to tell people, to pre-teach, hey, lift the knees up. Now pull a heel up to your hip, and then do not jump, but pull the other one off of the ground. And that takes a lot more work. So the body's first instinct, your brain's first instinct is to shortcut it and not take the path that will lead to the growth, because the growth involves pain, the growth involves the unknown, the growth involves all of these things that is antithetical to your body's disposition of wanting safety and to maintain that level of homeostasis, even if that homeostasis is dangerous to you and is leading toward a path of destruction. Okay, so then the next one we can look at lifting the hips and then doing the L. And again, we don't really need these. You know, we can come over here and imagine you have some chairs or bar stools or kitchen countertops, okay? These look really cool in the gym and they're fun. But let's say you want to get to the L position. So remember that first principle that I talked to you about with leverage. One of the mistakes that people make is assuming or thinking that all of the different positions and shapes of the body are just different fancy ways of doing the moves, when in reality, they are part of the engineering of those more advanced moves, like Lego blocks, like I always say. And so this would be your first sort of Lego block of just holding a support stand. Then tightening up the body, and this is a hollow hold, this first shape here. So I'm not just like this, hollow. Then that position of leverage, that first position that's going to give you the most advantage to build gravity-defying strength, along with the positive thoughts and words that you're going to be having from this point forward, is keeping the knees in that tuck shape as close to you as possible. Because what does that do? That shortens the amount of that seesaw length on that side that's nearest to that fulcrum that has all that upper body and core muscle that's gonna hold you up into that position. So on this side of the seesaw is all this weight, and on that side of the seesaw, we wanna bring that weight to us as closely as possible. And that's gonna make it the easiest. So another mistake that people make is trying to throw themselves. Okay, and think about these. All of these principles that I'm talking about, they generalize, and that's a huge concept, generalizing principles. That's an element of learning. It's an element of teaching. I remember lots of discussions about generalization in my work for a master's in education and whenever I was teaching. But generalizing these principles that I'm talking about to all of life. So people make the mistake of hurling themselves into things. And they'll say, I'm trying to do my L. And it's really just like swinging their legs around and it's not accomplishing anything. Again, the body and the brain are taking the path of least resistance, unbeknownst to you, your mind, on that deeper level. And then you end up not getting anywhere and staying stuck and even maybe injured. So instead of that, what we want to do is we want to approach it in a way that's actually going to be beneficial to us. So we're here, and what would be the next best thing? Well, slowly extending. So this, holding at a kind of a, not a tuck, but not straight position, is more ideal than doing perfect straight leg positions or hurling yourself. And that's another mistake that people make, is they are obsessed with perfection. And they will be the typo Nazis, the grammar Nazis, the people that swallow the camel trying to strain out the gnat, if you know that parable. And so what we want to allow ourselves to do is to be comfortable with where we're at, but pushing ourselves to be uncomfortable in those stages of growth that require some pain sometimes. And so if we take that back over here, what does that look like here? It looks like a less than perfect L stand, doesn't it? And we're holding like that and building the body with those static holds. And then from there, we can even take these away and start experimenting and seeing, okay, how can I hold myself off of the ground like that? Now, look at my feet. Are they pointed? No, like that would get low scores. But that's another little detail, another little training trick, another little just fact of physics that'll help propel your training. So, thinking about leverage. Whenever we're pulling the legs back in close to us to generate the most amount of leverage on that side of the body, down the middle, my arms on this side, I'm pulling everything back. If my feet are pointed, that elongates that lever. Okay? I want to pull that back as far as possible. So, generalizing. Let's come on over to the floor here. So, same thing. These positions are not done in just isolation. So we've gone over like the tuck planche, crunch planche. I like calling it the crunch planche because people are, I know like from doing crunches on the ground, so I call it a crunch planche. The crunch L, these positions here where we're pulling the knees in and now the feet are flared out. Okay, what happens if we take that airborne? So, again, generalizing the principles and the concept, what's going to be the easiest kind of backflip? Is it going to be stretched out, fully straight, or is it going to, would we want to have ourselves in the best advantage position possible? Everything pulled in and feet flared out. So, you see the generalization of these shapes. And if you think that was just leg, or I don't know what you might think is involved in doing a backflip, there's two things. There's a jump, a dynamic jump, and then there's a dynamic crunch, reverse crunch in the air. And so we're going through that position that I just showed you, but it's here, up in the air instead. And so you see how these things are beyond labels, beyond these perfect categories of sports, these disciplines or protocols or methods. It's just human movement. The way that we train, what I call ours, is Powerbatics. And there's 5 different elements. Hand balancing, which I just talked about with you. Building the upper body strength and the core strength, and it gives you that perfect foundation because you're in control of your own body. Power moves is all of that with turning and spinning. We'll talk about that in a second. Then there's ninja strength, which is up on the bars, and you can see other videos where I talk about that. Cirque, using a lot of these pieces of equipment over here, like you would see in Cirque du Soleil, straps, hoop, silks, and then free run. And so we have one thing, a person might be interested in hand balancing. They might be a hand balancing specialist, and then another person might be a free runner and love to flip. And then they're wondering, well, how do I improve my flips? And then the hand balancer, how do I improve my handstands? Well, there's an element of that interdisciplinary generalization of that strength and skill. And so a person that wants to attain a good, powerful backflip or good, strong core and legs to be able to do a backflip, hand balancing, and see how they cross over. And really, they're just positions of the body. And Powerbatics, meaning just how to move with power. That's what that means. And so we're gonna go back over to the floor, and we're gonna start putting some of that into movement now. Something that I think will be fun for you. And it's gonna combine those things together. And it'll be a challenge too. So if we're thinking about the path that we've gone on so far, we've done the tuck planche, the crunch planche, and then the L, some of the different positions to get in there. And then remember those mindset concepts, your thoughts and your words, they have so much bearing upon how successful you're gonna be. With body weight, strength, and skill, or anything else. So let's look at these then. So we're here, we're building that foundation. Knees are up. We're not jumping into this, we're just holding ourselves. And then we're starting to add motion to this. So test yourself and see. Can you walk in a circle on your hands? You don't have to be up in a handstand. You could be just like that. And does it need to be perfect? No. Are you going to overthink things? No. We should just enjoy training, enjoy life, taking action, not getting caught up in words and thoughts that are going to weigh you down or weigh other people down. But ultimately, they're responsible for the thoughts that they have about the thoughts and the words that you share. So the next one, hips up, feet up. And just walking in a circle. And it's easy as that. Well, simple, but it can still be brutal. And as you see, no equipment really. You know, it's fun to train with a variety of equipment in community too. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And so if you're not training with other people, be it face-to-face or online, that are going to hold you accountable, that are also progressing in the direction that you want to progress, man, that's a big aspect of being successful and building gravity-defying strength or any other area of life. So we just used the floor, a couple of blocks. I went onto the mat to do a backflip, and that's it, keeping it simple, step by step, and then just starting to open up just a couple of these pieces about things that people just aren't thinking about, leading to mistakes that you might be making that are really screwing up a lot of your progress. And it could be affecting a lot of areas of life, not just your strength and skill. But this is a very good place to start. Training of the body trains the mind and vice versa. And you've got to think about the training. You got to think about the actions that you want to take. And then you're going to start building gravity-defying strength.